Is Ron Paul being ignored by the media? Log on to jerrywillis.com. Take the poll on the right-hand side of your screen. I'll share the results at the end of tonight's show. Earlier this hour, we debated whether presidential candidate Ron Paul is getting enough attention. He basically tied with Michelle Bachmann in this weekend's straw poll, but she got all the news coverage, not to mention his Texas colleague Rick Perry stealing all the headlines. So we asked on jerrywillis.com, is Ron Paul being ignored by the media? 97% of you said yes, he is. 3% said no. And listen to this. We had voters from 26 different countries voting in that poll.
All right, now, you got to tell me what you think of this headline in something called the Daily Caller. Quote, poll, Romney leads New Hampshire, Huntsman third, Perry fourth. Now, do they know how to count? Why would they omit saying who was in second?
Well, you know why? Ron Paul.
But
So now with Pawlenty dropping out, Rick Perry dropping in, and Michelle Bachmann and Ron Paul dominating the Ames straw poll, we got ourselves a race.
We have a top tier. It is Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, and Michelle Bachmann.
We have a new top tier, and it's Perry, Mitt Romney, and Bachmann.
There's now a top tier in this race, at least for now, of Romney, Perry, and Bachmann.
I mean, I think that's fair to say. Really fair to say? You're not forgetting, I don't know, anyone, say, an ideologically consistent 12-term congressman who came within less than 200 votes of winning the straw poll? Isn't anyone going to give that gentleman a little love?
There's a top tier now of Bachmann and Perry and Romney, and, you know, we haven't mentioned, and we should.
Thank you.
We haven't mentioned, and we should, Rick Santorum, who did really surprisingly well for the amount of money and resources he had.
Rick Santorum? He didn't get half of what Ron Paul got. He lost to the guy who lost so bad he dropped out of the race. Santorum?
We're looking at Mitt Romney, who continues to be the front runner, but we have Rick Perry as well, and now Michelle Bachmann. Let's not count out Jon Huntsman, though.
What? Jon Huntsman? Huntsman got 69 votes. If all of Jon Huntsman's supporters met at the same Ames, Iowa Quiznos, the fire marshal would say, yeah, that's fine, no problem. There's still some tables open in the back. Huntsman was the only Mormon running in the straw poll, and he came in second amongst Mormons. And by the way, this pretending Ron Paul doesn't exist for some reason has been going on for weeks.
A new Gallup survey showing Rick Perry running second to Mitt Romney, knocking down Iowa favorite Michelle Bachmann to fourth.
Behind who? Fourth behind who? How did Libertarian Ron Paul become the 13th floor in a hotel? Why? What's wrong with... He is Tea Party patient zero. All that small government grassroots business, he planted that grass. These other folks, they're just moral majorities in a tri-cornered hat. Ron Paul's the real deal, and Fox News should love this guy. But watch the disconnect between the debate moderators at Fox's Thursday debate and the debate audience.
Iran does not have an air force that can come here, just like we did in Iraq. Build up the war propaganda. There was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and they had nuclear weapons, and we had to go in. I'm sure you supported that war as well. Yeah. Okay. It's time we quit this. It's time. It's trillions of dollars we're spending on these wars.
What's with the smirk and the eye roll? The guy gives it, the crowd goes nuts, and you do one of these. There goes crazy Uncle Ron, babbling about the unsustainability of multiple wars. Boop, boop. He's the one guy in the field, agree with him or don't agree with him, who doesn't go out of his way to regurgitate talking points or change what he believes to fit the audience he's in front of. And you're treating him like if this were Celebrity Apprentice, he'd be this guy. By the way, at the Ames, Iowa straw poll, Busey beat Huntsman 77-69. And even when the media does remember Ron Paul, it's only to reassure themselves how there's no need to remember Ron Paul.
Right now, live, right next to the bus behind us, Ron Paul is speaking. And 7 of the candidates are here today. We have live pictures of Ron Paul, but you know what? We're talking about Sarah Palin and we're talking about Rick Perry, the 2 people not in the race yet, Drew.
And guess what, Paul? If you get video of Sarah Palin or get a soundbite from her, bring that back to us. You can hold the Ron Paul stuff.
$7,726 for Rick Santorum, $7,655 for Ron Paul. Let's go to Dana Bash over at Ron Paul headquarters right now. I guess more and more people are coming back from their caucuses to wait for the candidate.
That's right, and we have here somebody who actually did just go vote for Ron Paul, a first-time caucus voter, Corporal Jesse Thorson, who is 28 years old, and you are active duty U.S. Army. Why did you vote for Ron Paul?
Well, I'm really excited about a lot of his ideas, especially when it comes to bringing the soldiers home. I've been serving for 10 years now, and all 10 years of those have been during wartime. I'd like to see a little peacetime Army, and I think he has the right idea.
Now, you have done 2 tours in Afghanistan. You told me you're going to go back for a 3rd tour. I mean, if you can see your neck right there, what you have on your tattoo, 9/11, remember, and a picture of the Twin Towers. You know, some Republicans out there have been saying that Ron Paul would be very dangerous for this country because he wants to bring troops like you back from your post from all over the world.
Well, I think it would be even more dangerous to start nitpicking wars with other countries. Someone like Iran, Israel is more than capable of.
All right, we just lost our connection, unfortunately, with Dana. Dana, stand by if you can hear me. We're going to get back to you. I want to go to Candy Crowley over at Mitt Romney headquarters. People are beginning to fill up that room over there, Candy. Over at Mitt Romney headquarters. People are beginning to fill up that room over there, Candy. Back, you want to go to Candy Crowley over at Mitt Romney headquarters. People are beginning to fill up that room over there, Candy.
Barack Obama was their commander-in-chief. Present arms!
Left.
We will now observe 1 second of silent prayer for every soldier who has died abroad with Barack Obama as their commander-in-chief. Let us pray. Amen. Detail! Attend! Hot! Left face! Forward march!
Campaign so far, it is so fluid. There is not, rock solid support for anybody except perhaps Ron Paul, who does get his 15 to 20%.
If Ron Paul wins here, what then?
Well, the Ron Paul people are not going to like my saying this, but to a certain degree, it will discredit the Iowa caucuses because, rightly or wrongly, I think most of the Republican establishment thinks he's not going to end up as the nominee, so therefore Iowa won't count and it will go on. It would certainly be a knock to Gingrich because, right now he was the front runner, or a week ago he was the big front runner in this.
Now, Ron Paul almost won the Ames straw poll, which we all made too much of, but the media is not going to be blown away.
Right.
They're watching a Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich runoff from here to New Hampshire to South Carolina to Florida and to whatever's next. If Ron Paul wins Iowa, we just take it out.
Roger Simon, who will spend Christmas in Washington, but
But what about Ron Paul? He only spoke a total of 89 seconds
in last night's debate. So why give him short shrift? He polls very well. He usually wins, you know, most of the straw polls, or he's very high on the straw polls. So what gives here? He only spoke for 89 seconds. He's not complaining.
You know, I'm not really sure what's to give, actually, why he hasn't had an opportunity to really speak during these debates more than he has. You're right. He's shown to be really in touch with the voters. They seem to really like some of his views, and it shows whenever the straw polls are being held.
Now, when I say Ron Paul, you know who I'm talking about? Congressman Ron Paul? Texas, from Texas, is that where he's from, Ron Paul? And he, they've had so many debates, the Republicans. First, they had the debates they were at podiums. Then they had debates where they were in comfortable armchairs. Then they had what they called a round table debate. Last night they were in bunk beds. Crazy, but sooner or later they all get their nose out of joint, and now Ron Paul is saying that he's being ignored. He's not being given enough time as the other candidates during the Republican televised debates. So today, Ron Paul and his campaign machine, and buddy, what a machine this is, released this statement. Watch.
In the last GOP debate, Ron Paul was given a mere 89 seconds of airtime. To ensure he is given equal time in the future, Congressman Paul will now only debate while strapped to Mitt Romney in a Swedish baby carrier.
To veto every single bill that violates the 10th Amendment. That would be the solution.
Ron Paul. Restore America now.
I'm surprised that Mitt went along with that.
This is an endorsement for fair coverage, and there is no question the congressman isn't getting it. Consider the fact that during Saturday's CBS debate in South Carolina, 7 minutes and 45 seconds worth of time was allotted to Rick Perry. 5 minutes and 45 seconds worth of time to Rick Santorum, who was polling at nearly the last place among presidential contenders. In comparison, Ron Paul got a whopping 89 seconds worth of time. Does that seem like fair coverage? And that is Reality Check.
If you'd like to make your voice heard on the story, you can do so by simply commenting on Ben's Facebook page. All you have to do is search him, Ben Swan, WXIX.
But is there a media bias against him? Just from the media's point of view, isn't he good for the media because he challenges Republican orthodoxy and causes debate and generates and stimulates the discussion about ideas that the other Republicans don't want to talk about? What if Mitt Romney is being embraced by voters who want anyone but Barack Obama, but they don't realize that Mitt Romney might as well be Barack Obama on everything from warfare to welfare? What if Ron Paul is being ignored by the media, not because, as it claims, he's unappealing or unelectable, but because he doesn't fit into the pre-manufactured public opinion mold used by the establishment to pigeonhole the electorate and create the so-called narrative that drives media coverage of elections? What if the biggest difference between most candidates was not substance, but style? What if those stylistic differences were packaged as substantive ones to reinforce the illusion of a difference between Democrats and Republicans? What if Mitt Romney wins and ends up continuing most of the same policies that Barack Obama promoted? What if Barack Obama's policies, too, are merely extensions of those from George W. Bush? What if a government that manipulated us could be fired? What if a government that lacked the true and knowing consent of the governed could be dismissed? What if it were possible to have a real game changer? What if we need a Ron Paul to preserve and protect our freedoms from the government? What if we could make elections matter again? What if we could do something about this? From New York, defending freedom every night of the week.
What I don't understand is, when all that anger about the Iraq War occurred, what you did is you made it akin to treason.
That's not true.
And you made it akin to aiding and abetting the enemy.
When it became clear that the Bush administration lost control of that process.
But this was before it was clear.
But nobody could know before what it was. The New York Times editorialized that they should go in. Bill Clinton was saying they should go in. That's ridiculous.
All I'm saying is the consistency of your ability to look at these protest movements and treat them the same as a news organization would.
It's a different kind of protest.
And here's the other thing about the Tea Party movement. Where was the anger when we were spent into a $1.3 trillion deficit during the Bush administration?
Listen,
this has appeared out of nowhere.
It should have been there. And I'm partially to blame for that.
And why did Fox News not treat Ron Paul better when he's been talking about this stuff for the past 8 years?
Look,
10 years.
We can't promote Mounds and Almond Joy. Are you talking about Peter Paul?
All right.
Peter, Paul, and Mary? It was Ron? Okay. Ron.
Let's go back to KSM.
No, let's go back to
KSM.
A big night in Missouri last night for Republican delegates. The GOP held a do-over caucus in Missouri last night after the original one in St. Charles, Missouri came completely unraveled. Ben is following up on what happened only weeks after his report in a reality check. Reply all.
Well, for months, Reality Check has been the only news source intensely following the delegate process from state to state. And while most other media don't seem to really understand that process, here we are committed to explaining it and for calling for transparency and fairness in the process. A couple of weeks ago, Reality Check was the only news source in the nation to show you how the GOP in Missouri, under the leadership of Eugene Dokes, attempted to railroad the St. Charles County caucus. Dokes and the Rules Committee elected a caucus chairman without accepting nominations from the floor, against the rules. Created a rule that no video could be taken of the event without voting on a Rules Committee, also against the rules, and eventually ended the caucus without two-thirds majority, again, against the rules. Well, that sent the entire event into chaos. Here's a clip from the Reality Check 3 weeks ago. Under the Missouri GOP Chairman's Guide, the chairman cannot adjourn the meeting without two-thirds support of the assembly. Also, according to the rules, the delegate selection caucus must take place at the same location where it was advertised in writing 15 days prior. That location was the high school.
Are we going to let the St. Charles County Central Committee railroad all of us? No! No! Nope. Nope. Let's stand our ground and have a caucus right here.
And that's what they did. Brent Stafford, along with one of the top parliamentarians in the state of Missouri, they decided to reconvene the caucus right there in the parking lot.
We have to have a roster. We have to turn in a roster. Okay? So right now, we have to be quick about it. And when you need to, if you got a piece of paper or circulate it, you've got to get everybody saved. Give it to me. Give it. Also, you should have a number on your bracelet. Write it next to your name. Okay. Name, address, and your bracelet number. Do we email it? You understand? Yes. We got to get it done before the SWAT team comes.
Before the SWAT team comes, he said, and police did come. Within minutes, Brent Stafford was arrested. I talked with Brent via Skype about his arrest.
They took me away from the crowd and handcuffed me and started walking me towards their police cars and their paddy wagon. Request for answers of if am I being arrested or detained, and what am I being charged with, or met with answers. We'll tell you later.
In the end, the cops charged Stafford with trespassing. Well, now the update. After Reality Check called out the Missouri GOP for this disaster of a delegate caucus, as did some Missouri talk radio shows, the GOP decided to give that caucus a do-over. It was held last night, and the scene, much more calm. Video was taken freely, and the nominations from the floor for the caucus chairman were also taken.
The vote, Mr. Stafford, 480. For Mr. Cole, 402. Mr. Stafford is the current chair.
That's right, Brent Stafford, the man arrested by St. Charles, Missouri police for trespassing at the last caucus while trying to conduct a peaceful caucus, the one we interviewed here, was elected from the floor as the chairman for last night's St. Charles, Missouri caucus. In addition, the meeting went off without a hitch, and 152 delegates were elected to go on to the district and state conventions. So here's what you need to know. Not everyone's going to be happy with the outcome of this caucus, and that's understandable. Certainly not the folks who attempted to railroad it the last time, because in a radio interview shortly after, Eugene Dokes admitted that he was trying to prevent Ron Paul supporters from winning those delegate seats. Unfortunately for Mr. Dokes, they did. Those 152 delegates from last night, I'm told, all of them Paul supporters. But in the end, the real winner here wasn't any candidate. It was the voter who became engaged in the process and had their voice fairly heard. And that is Reality Check.
If you would like to make your voice heard in the story, head over to Ben's Facebook page. You can find it by searching Ben Swan, WXIX.
Well, coming up, how swaddling
stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets
promised a big speech on the economy today. It turned out to be a real lemon. The football stadium seats about 80,000 people. Only problem, Romney had about 1,000 people in the crowd, making the event look like a total flop.
I guess we had a hard time finding a large enough place to meet, and this certainly is.
Romney's campaign couldn't even fill all the chairs in the audience.
Ron Paul appeared before an enthusiastic crowd, and many in the crowd were young.
That he is the only one who can win against Barack Obama. He's the only one with appeal to the moderates and independents. He's the only one widely supported by our troops. And he's the only one with the army of young supporters needed to win. Yeah! That he's an honest and trustworthy man whose message of liberty is winning the hearts and minds of millions. It's my honor today to introduce this man who's changed my life, Dr., Congressman, and presidential candidate Ron Paul.
Paul was often interrupted by cheers as he laid out his beliefs on limiting government, reducing the deficit by $1 trillion in 1 year, repealing the Affordable Health Care Act, cutting foreign aid, and limiting government regulations.
I think it's the liberty message, the total freedom.
Yeah, a lot of enthusiasm.
This room was fully packed. More than 1,200 people.
At about 1350, around 2,400 people.
More than 8,000 supporters.
Which is something, only a few days' notice for this event, and cheered at every opportunity.
It's just so interesting to see so many people turning out for these rallies.
Presidential candidate Ron Paul brought his presidential campaign to Twin Falls today.
Now, Twin Falls isn't a usual campaign stop for presidential candidates, but the Ron Paul campaign thinks this strategy will help him win the nomination and eventually the election.
People were lined up for close to 2 hours Saturday.
And we feel very good. I mean, the enthusiasm here is fantastic. and it's been that way, so we're optimistic.
His support was loud and clear.
It was awesome. I'm stoked.
He definitely knows what he's doing.
And he's the only candidate that's really got a pro-limited government message. The other candidates, they talk a good game, but Ron Paul's got a 24-year track record in Congress to prove it.
These people look at you like a rock star. I mean...
That embarrasses me.
The Ron Paul revolution has gotten awfully quiet.
Headline said, "Where's Ron Paul? What do we hear from him?" And yet, here we just had that rally. So tonight, I hope we're able to send a message where they do hear from us and know that we're here. President Paul! President Paul! President Paul! President Paul! President Paul! I'm here to talk about a favorite subject. It's not complex. It's simple. It's one word. We're talking about liberty. And we have to take it upon ourselves to change the course of our history in this country. You're not allowed to counterfeit money. Why is the government allowed to counterfeit money? The government is too big, our liberty is too minimal. Shrink the size of the government and give it to the government. I know some politicians, I know some bureaucrats. They're not smart enough to tell you what to do with your life or your money. You don't bail out people who are ripping us off and dumping it on the taxpayer. Get the government off our backs and out of our lives and let the market work. It's philosophic. This is what has to be changed. Nobody can stop an idea whose time has come. Very soon we're going to see that this momentum will pick up and that we will be able to, and we will see the restoration of freedom and prosperity and peace in this country once again. Thank you very much.